Any intense emotional encounter that's not fully experienced and processed will become part of your sense of self or your worldview, not something that happened to you. So for example, if as a child I was treated like I was insignificant because my parents were just too busy to spend time with me, and this was a regular occurrence in my family's life, then really, at a certain level, I am insignificant. I don't register as high up as all of the other survival things that they're doing in terms of trying to, get food on the table and stuff, right? So if I get that impression of insignificance, it really does, in a sense, tell me my relational status in my family. That I'm not as important as all the other things going on. And it's, even as a 2-year-old or younger, you can get that feeling of significance or insignificance. And you get that impression. Now what happens when you grow up and you grow up a little bit, go to school, and you meet a whole bunch of kids and they're all playing in the playground, and you walk into that bubble of activity, but your feeling is that you're insignificant, right? You now start to interact with that group of people differently than if you felt significant. Because if you felt significant, you'd just, hey, hi everybody, I'm Doug, let's play, right? Like, you'd assume that people will pay attention to you. But if you're carrying your childhood impression from home with you, you're going to feel insignificant, you're not going to call out, you're not going to make eye contact, you're not going to engage, and those kids are going to notice that you don't seem to like them or you don't seem to want to play with them, and they'll start treating you differently, right? And so you'll end up re-experiencing insignificance in a whole other context that you could have been very significant in. But we can't blame the child because at home they are treated like they're insignificant. And so it is who their sense of self is, right? Now, I've seen this happen where the kid can have all the attention they want, but then one time when they really needed mom and dad weren't there, and they took in an impression of insignificance, right? And that became who they were. From that day forward, they never quite felt the same connection with mom or dad, or their siblings or their friends. So that was, in this case, an event. Now, if they would have come to mom and dad and cried, and if they're really healthy and had the language, said, I feel really insignificant, you guys haven't been paying attention to me, and they're crying, well, now they're processing the emotion, and likely mom and dad are going to hug them and say, I'm sorry, and the hugging and that attention is going to make them feel significant. So they're going to update that impression. They won't feel insignificant. It'll just have been an event that happened to them, as opposed to a sense of insignificance where mom and dad don't really care about them. But you have to experience it and process it for it to become an event. And if you haven't processed it for 20 years, you need to go back and process it. That's kind of my whole therapeutic practice.